Hi, my name is Jack Wagoner, and today we are going to be talking about voting and voter suppression. Now, to understand voter suppression, we have to know how we got to where we are today. You may be telling yourself, well, everyone can vote, so why does it really matter? But to really say that, we have to look at who can really vote, and to understand that better, we have to look at the timeline of how we got here. This timeline is summarized by Jerry's Abella Eddins in the article Who Gets to Vote? In 1776, it is established that all white men who own property can vote. In 1870, non-white men gain the right to vote, but are oftentimes blocked by poll taxes. In 1920, women are given the right to vote, but it isn't until 1924 that Native Americans are given U.S. citizenship status and the right to vote. It isn't until 1964 that poll taxes are prohibited so that all Americans, including poor Americans, can vote, and it isn't until 1971 that the voting age is changed from 21 to 18. And, according to the U.S. Department of Justice, voter accessibility for the disabled was not a requirement at all voting places until 1984. So you may be saying, wow, that's kind of bad, but we have those protections now. Why is it still a problem? Well, there's also discrimination that you may not be seeing. Even with all of the amendments protecting voters, there are still shortcomings that can lead to lost votes and lost voters. It's probably a fair assumption that most of you, being college age, are in the workforce. And if you're only working part-time, this still may apply to you. Having time off to vote isn't guaranteed by any federal law. That's handled on the state level. So these policies vary greatly between states, some being as short as 1 hour, which in some cases just isn't enough time. According to workplacefairness.org, some states don't require that employers even tell their employees their voting policy, and others don't require paid voting time, making going out to vote less appealing to those who really need the income. Now, I said that voting was a right that everyone got, but that's not completely true. If you have been through the prison system, and depending upon your state, your rights as a voter may be drastically different. This is a summary from the National Conference of State Legislatures on Felon Voting Rights from as recent as 2019. There are 2 states that allow felons to keep all voting rights even if incarcerated. 16 states remove the right to vote while incarcerated but still restore it upon release. 21 states remove the right to vote while incarcerated and when on parole, and 11 states revoke the right to vote altogether if incarcerated. So no matter the crime that they were incarcerated for, a portion of the population loses their right to vote, take part in the democratic process, and, as sad as it is, a majority of the prison system targets non-white individuals, meaning there is a large section of the population who is not white who is denied from the voting process. And a final way that voter suppression is pushed that you may not know about is, well, my vote doesn't matter. If you're younger than 30, you have probably had the thought that your vote doesn't count towards anything, or maybe you've heard your friends say it, and there's a reason that you probably feel this way. It's directly related to how many young people actually vote. Dina Bernis in The Immense Power of the Older Voter says, and I quote, "In the 2016 presidential election, for example, 71% of Americans over 65 voted, compared with 46% among 18 to 29-year-olds, according to the U.S. Census Bureau data." End quote. That means less than 50% of voters ages 18 to 29 are voting despite their eligibility. Since older generations vote more, it makes sense that politicians cater to their needs. But if more younger people showed up and voted, then their concerns would be more focused upon by politicians. Now, this has changed some in the light of the 2020 election, but it still isn't enough. We don't see younger voters taking part in local elections, and we don't see younger voters taking part on things that happen more at the state level than they do at the federal level. We value the presidential election, but there are still elections that take place all around you all year long that people are just skipping out on. So you have to think, voting, even if it feels like my vote doesn't do anything, if people show up to vote, your vote is guaranteed to have more impact than you believe it does. It's an important right to have, and not everybody gets that right. But through petitioning and voting, you can change these policies so that everyone has the right to vote, and we can put an end to voter suppression. Thank you.